Okay, usually I start off my presentation by apologizing to everyone I'm going to offend. Uh, I have very different views about real estate, and it takes sometimes you got to think about it. But basically, this speech is titled, How to Build 100,000 Homes in 10 Years. Absolutely doable. We just have to change what we're doing. I like to think of our real estate economy as a grandfather clock. I think it helps people if you can imagine a mechanism where there's hundreds of wheels and levers and springs, and they're all working together to make something work. If one of them is out of whack, you have a problem. But when all of them go out of whack, you have Hawaii's real estate market. So we're going to talk using that grandfather clock, where the clock can tell you the tide, it's morning, it's afternoon, the phases of the moon, the sunrise, the sunset. Our real estate clock has to be a little more complex because we have to account for all of the peripheral things that affect real estate: population, cost of living, inflation, social costs, finances, zoning, etc. So I'm going to go through. Usually I have 3 hours for this speech. I got 30 minutes, so you get the abbreviated, quick version. Okay, let's take population first. You all have read in the newspaper not too long ago, our population went down by 20,000 people, and everyone was shocked. It was a lie, an absolute lie. Because if you read the fine print, 50,000 people left Hawaii and 30,000 people moved in. So they don't report that. So when we think it went down 20, it went down 50. And I'm willing to bet it's gone down 20, 30,000 every year for the last 10 years. And we never realized our people were fleeing. They're leaving because we've made it impossible for them to live here. The social cost is one of the clocks I like to cover because affordable housing is so critical, but there's a cost to it. But the reality is there's a cost not to having it. We put so much pressure on our families. We find divorces, child abuse, alcoholism, drug addiction, crime. Every social issue can be tied to our failure on affordable housing. And we have to overcome that problem. So the first one is to understand our market. But if you look at our market today, it is meaningless. This market is a distortion. It doesn't tell us anything other than everything we've done is wrong. We cannot look at this and find the problem or the solution because the market is so out of whack. So the first thing we need to do is find an anchor, find something that will tell us what reality is, something that will always help us make sure we're making the right decision. And the easiest anchor is the definition of a real estate economy. Building homes so people who work in that community can afford to buy. Think about that, because that's not Hawaii. Affordable that you can buy. In our market today, we do not have affordability. In this case, the local market is the definition we want. Hawaii has been a national market since the 60s. Our market was controlled to a small degree by mainland buyers, and it grew and it grew and it grew. And today, we aren't even a national market. We're an international market. Properties are sold based on what the wealthiest people can pay. So nothing is tied to our incomes, to what our people earn. So if we're going to solve it, we need to solve that problem. So what does the local market look like? Well, Maui answered that question to you a few years ago. They called me and said, Peter, we're doing a study on housing. Do you have a suggestion? And I told them what I'm telling you. You got to get rid of all the bullshit. You got to come up with the local market. So they did the study. Local market, $400,000. Mainland market, $1.2 million. Asian and European market, $1.3 million. Our market is distorted by $800,000 to $900,000 by the influence of outside buyers. Our target has to be to build $400,000 and $500,000 units. The example I want to use is Singapore. And you've heard the Singapore example used over and over again, and everyone misses the point. I used the Singapore example back in 1980 in a legislative hearing. And I explained that Singapore is 95% owner-occupied. Singapore became an island nation a few years after Hawaii became a state. What people don't realize is Singapore came to Hawaii and asked us to help them because we were so successful at solving our housing crisis once we became a state, that we had built more homes, affordable homes, and done all kinds of innovative and creative things. What did we do? We had leasehold. We were the first state and only state to come up with a condo law. We actually built using reinforced concrete. Now, for a lot of you, it's like, what's the big deal? Back in 1960, they didn't do reinforced concrete. It was a whole new building structure versus steel. We built on piles. Singapore needed that because they're also on the water, right? So there's all these things we did. They met with our people. We explained what we did. They left. They went back to Singapore. They initiated all of those items and they took off. They're the wealthiest country, or one of the wealthiest countries in the world. Their housing is better than anywhere. 95% owner occupant by doing what Hawaii was doing. Hawaii, on the other hand, continued to go forward. We lost our way and we crashed and burned. And they tell you we need to build more housing. Building more housing, building more rental units is the worst thing we can do. It will not make the problem better. It will make the problem worse. Our problem is not building houses. In my lifetime, we have built over 400,000 homes. Think about that, 400,000 homes. And the best part, most of them were priced under 400,000. Our problem is not building. Our problem is we have no mechanism to keep our units affordable. We have no mechanism to protect our local buyers. I got to find my place. Okay, so I want to give a few examples because the key is Singapore had a commitment to housing, and every decision they made supported housing. That's what Hawaii lacked. And I'm going to take things we've done over the last few years to show you the lack of commitment. I'm going to take 6 things. The first one, mass transit. Great idea, complete disaster. The reality is, I was at breakfast one day and Don Horner was late, and he was on the board right back then about transit. He comes in and he's saying the governor's upset. We have another 200 million lost. We're going to have tax overruns. Our grandkids are paying for this. It's the worst thing we've ever done. I looked at him and said, Don, you do realize mass transit can be free. You realize the operation can be at no cost to the citizens. He stopped and looked at me and said, what? You got to realize Don's been my banker back then for like 50 years. He knows I don't fool around. He said, how? And I said, Don, think about it. We're building mass transit. We're building 22 stations, 1 mile circumference on those stations. We're going to give them special zoning. We're going to create billions and billions of dollars in land value, and we're going to give all that value away free. Why don't we charge a tax to these landowners? Their property's worth $150 now. With mass transit, it'll go up to $300, $400 a square foot. Why can't we tax them $50? Light bulb goes off. He whips out his calculator. The man's a genius because I could never do it. Oh, there's 22 million square feet. It's figuring out. Comes out $5 a square foot. We pay off mass transit. I said, if it's 5, I want 50. Let's pay off mass transit. Let's set up a trust fund. Let's improve our sewers, pay our endowment funds, fix our schools and streets. Why the hell are we giving property owners, many of them large corporations, $300 and $400 and $500 a square foot in value? It makes no sense. Did they do it? No. Was it legal? The attorney at the law school said, Mr. Savio, what he suggested is illegal. And I went, huh? And it goes, well, he used the word tax. He should have said impact fee. If it's an impact fee, it's legal. Did our city pick it up? No. Did our state pick it up? No. What happened to the proposal? Never got considered by the board, got buried. Don was completely disgusted with it. Gets worse. The city then calls me and says, Peter, we want to help affordable housing. We're going to have all of these programs we're going to offer to mass transit. We're going to waive parking. We're going to give additional densities. We're going to do all of these wonderful things. I said, don't do it. As soon as you announce it, you're going to raise the value of the land. It gets more expensive. Don't you understand real estate? No, they raise it. Value goes up. Land around the transit station, $500 to $1,000 a square foot today. When we started, it was $300, $400. Our city used our tax dollar to create billions and billions of dollars in value and then gave it away for free. Okay, second example, photovoltaic, wonderful program. Stops the use of fuels. We use the sun to trace power. It's a great program, but it's only for the wealthy. You got to own a house to have photovoltaic panels. So what do? We now have mainland companies come in, a lot of them REITs, who build large solar farms. Tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars leave our state and do nothing to help our people. But there's also a program called Community Solar. In that program, the solar is owned locally. I announced about a year ago, I was going to do a condominium community solar. If our legislature, our council, our electric company, our PUC had insisted on community solar, our people would be paying no electricity today or very little electricity today. All of our solar farms would be locally owned and all that money would stay here. We are shipping out more cash for our power than we did when we were buying oil. So again, great idea, great concept, implemented poorly, and it hurts the taxpayer. It hurts and raises our cost of living, the lack of commitment. Another one is REITs, Real Estate Investment Trust, own every office building, every hotel, every major asset in Hawaii. REITs are a wonderful investment vehicle. They pay absolutely no taxes in the state of Hawaii. Our tax law allows them to be tax-free. Under that law, their taxes are paid in the state where the profits go, not where they're earned. We got that bill passed 2 or 3 times, and the governor vetoed it. And they say it's not a big deal. I got news for you. They bought El Moana Shopping Center for $150 million. They've been selling it off, and they probably sold it for $5-6 billion. Did we get our 8%? No, we got 0. We again have a great concept. We create huge value, but we don't keep our share. We give it away. That money is the money to pay for our schools, to reduce our taxes, to improve our quality of life. We don't do it. The other example is ADUs. Wonderful concept. I support it 100%, but we did it in the wrong way. We announced that everyone who has a lot of X square feet can build an ADU. So right away, every property goes up in value $50,000 to $100,000 because now you can build a second unit. So again, a great idea. We implemented it to help affordable housing, and all we did was increase the cost of housing because we didn't have enough restrictions on how the unit could be used to help keep the value down. One of my favorites is rental housing. Our city and our state was going to sell their rental housing a few years ago, 6,000 units and 4,000 units. And I went to them and said, guys, don't sell it to the mainland guys. Sell it to me. I will do a condo conversion. I will sell it to the tenants at cost. So they will own their building. We would keep the wealth here. We don't need the mainland guys. They love the idea. They're going to support it. When the RFP came out, no condo conversion allowed. Had to be a developer with 4 other projects under his belt. Now realize this is the first time it's done in Honolulu. No Hawaii developer qualified. We all had to go get a mainland partner, right? Again, a great idea. It would have worked. We could have saved millions of dollars. We could have had the ownership here, but our leaders didn't understand the market. The last one, in terms of how we make mistakes, is tax reform. We have the lowest property taxes in the country, but the highest overall taxes in the nation. So all these investors who own real estate in Hawaii do not pay their fair share. We are being punished because we've created a great market and environment where people want to live, but we're subsidizing them. So the first thing our mayor has to do with his city council is to legitimize taxes so those buyers pay their fair share. And for those of you who complain about taxes, I want you to remember sewers used to be in property taxes. They took it out. So you're paying a huge sewer fee plus property taxes. They need to put sewer fees back, and they need to raise taxes 4 or 5 times. Raise the property taxes. The reality is the 30% that's mainland owned will pay 150% of our taxes. Local guys, 100% home exemption, no property tax. Let the mainland guys pay his fair share. We pay, thank you. We pay the income taxes. We pay the sales tax. They pay property taxes. And our property taxes, if we multiply it by 3 or 4 times, is still cheaper than property taxes on the mainland. You raise property taxes, the value of real estate comes down. You give the Hawaii resident home exemption, our values go up. Our incomes go up. We now bring the 2 markets closer together. We're getting to a point where we'll be able to snatch off the low-hanging fruit. We'll be able to buy into that market. Now, let's make sure we understand real estate. Houses in the 60s sold for $25,000, and they were expensive, but affordable. Monthly payments were $134. Was high, but manageable. How many of you would buy a house for $25,000 today? Everyone. You'd buy 10 or 12. We'd be crazy not to. That house today is worth $900,000 to $1 million. The person who bought that unit only paid $23,000 in interest to buy it. So ownership cost $23,000. Renting that house cost the family $1 million to $1.5 million. So again, ownership's cheaper, renting's expensive. Now again, we have to remember we're talking about creating affordable housing. We all look at it and go, oh, the appreciation is a good thing. We buy real estate for appreciation. How many of you know that there's a wealth creator in real estate 5 to 10 times more powerful than appreciation? I'll buy any property and give the appreciation away as long as I have the other wealth creator. The reason we buy real estate, what we have forgotten, is we buy real estate for the constant monthly payment. You lock in your biggest cost of living for 30 years. Every time there's a pay raise, you keep it because your housing cost is constant. During that period, you're paying off your loan. Because your income's going off, you can pay the loan off even faster. You can pay your loan off in 10, 12 years. Then you live until today with no mortgage. The person who rented paid the $1 million and $1.5 million. If you took that money that the constant monthly payment creates, the value it creates, you have your kids' college education, you have a business you want to start, a retirement, a great life, or if you invest all or some of it, you easily could create $5 to $10 million in value. Real estate is a money machine. There are 13 creators of wealth in real estate, and we all get hung up on appreciation. But because appreciation is not the wealth creator we want, when we're establishing a local market, we should be willing to give up appreciation. So instead of that $25,000 house going for $900,000 or $1 million, have it go for $400,000 because we're tying it to wages. Appreciation would be tied to wages, not necessarily to the market. We also have tenants. Tenants rent. Rent is a program that steals the wealth of our families and our taxpayers and gives it to the wealthy owner of the building. Rental projects are evil. Any government that supports rental projects is basically stealing money from the taxpayer and the resident. Rental projects should only exist if they are tenant-owned buildings, because they now get the constant monthly payment. They don't have the constant increases in rent other than tied to cost of living. But the biggest part, housing, is locked. My aunt lived in a building like that in New York. Her down payment, the security deposit. She lived there for 40 years, sold the unit. She sold it back to them. She got $4,000, I believe. Her security deposit plus 5% interest for 40 years. They took the unit, renovated, fixed it up, probably sold it to the next guy based on a monthly rent of $75,000 or $100,000. Now you think, well, poor aunt, she had nothing. Single woman living in one of the most expensive cities in America had somewhere between $2 and $3 million in cash because she saved her money on the constant monthly payment. Realized she took care of my grandfather, took him to Europe every year, led a really good life, but still was able to invest and save $2 to $3 million, which was her retirement. When she passed away, $500,000 left to share with the kids, all because she understood real estate. She was lucky enough to find a building that was tenant-owned rather than investor-owned. Remember, as taxpayers, we pay tens of millions of dollars to get a developer to build a building. We subsidize their interest rate. We subsidize the rents. We increase the tenant rents over time. In the end, he sells the building, probably makes $50, $60 million and says goodbye. He doesn't pay taxes here. We get screwed again. We are giving away our wealth, and that is what has to stop. Okay, so now let's look at what we know so we can structure our solutions. How much time do I have? I'm good? With me, this is fast. Okay. We know the first thing we need is a commitment. And I'm not talking about, oh, we're going to cut the cost of getting a permit, or we're going to do these other things. We're going to get rid of all the protections. No, that's just one little wheel in our grandfather clock. Our commitment has to say, we're going to repair every wheel in that clock that is stopping us from creating affordable housing. So we know that the building should be rental owned slopes. Thank you. Oh, that slopes too. We know we want buildings that are owned by the tenants. We know that we need to tie up prices to wages. We need a local Kama'aina market. We must remember 60% of our families live paycheck to paycheck. They're going to have a tough time buying something. Buyers will have to buy with no money down. We need financing for our buyers and our developers. And we need an anchor to keep us on track. I gave you the anchor. I gave you the commitment. And when I say commitment, it's commitment to do everything you have to make housing affordable. And that deals with every decision government makes. In Singapore, if they're going to have a parking fine, they're going to sit there and say, does this affect housing? Is it going to make housing more expensive? They actually think about what the impacts will be. We don't. So here's the solution. One, commitment. I've already given you that. And I mean commitment to repair our grandfather clock, all 200, 300 wheels in it. The second thing is we need to bifurcate our market, split our market into two. We're going to keep the market we have now. Let the foreign guys come in and buy. Let the mainland come in to buy. Let the developers do the $1 million, $2 million units. We love them because now we're taxing them for their share and we're getting a benefit. But at the same time, we're going to create a local market where all affordable housing going forward, all housing that requires government approvals or benefits will be in the affordable market. All rental projects that are built have to be in the affordable market. Forget the wealthy mainland guy. He ain't going to get our buildings. He isn't going to get our values anymore. We're keeping them for ourselves. So we split the market. Now, in the local market, it's regulated. So you can buy in. The price will be the 400,000 or 500,000, not the million. But you have to be a resident, first-time buyer. You have to have, I guess you got to be employed. You cannot have more than so much in assets. So if you're a millionaire and you say, well, I want to buy because I only have 20,000 in income, no. You have money, you don't come into this program. You can own no other real estate, and the price on resale is tied to wages. So if you buy 100% of medium income, you have to sell it 100% of medium income. If you buy at 80% of medium income, you sell at 80%. So it will always be affordable forever and ever. Okay? To establish the new market will take 2 to 3 years. But we can start building housing immediately because there are 3 markets in Hawaii that are controlled. They are tied to local wages and local residents. So while we're waiting, we can immediately start. The first one is Hawaiian homes. We can go out and build 10, 20, 30,000 Hawaiian homes. Fill our obligation to the native Hawaiian. Those units are guaranteed to be sold locally, guaranteed to be sold at wages because they got to live in Hawaii, okay? And we can do that. The problem with Hawaiian homes, they use an archaic lease. We need to modernize their land lease so they have a lease equivalent to what Bishop Estate or Liliuokalani Estate offered. And all of a sudden, every native Hawaiian that owns property now is going to be worth $1 million. So they have the money to help their kids buy because their values are depressed because their lease is not a modern lease. The other one is rental buildings. All rental buildings got to be tenant-owned. Simple as that. And we can start building those as fast as we can because we need it. But our people will be able to lock in their rents or their cost of housing because they know what their mortgage is going to be or their pro rata share. And increases over time will be the same as what you experience in a house, taxes, fire insurance, etc. But you're not going to have the huge increases in rent. You'll be able to save your pay raises. And again, you should be, and once you pay off the mortgage, your pro rata share, you pay no mortgage. So your rent goes down. Okay, so it's all structured like ownership. Section 8. Section 8 is one of my brilliant ideas. In 1985 at the legislature, I said Section 8 is a ripoff for the wealthy. And you use our poor as the funnel through which to have all the money flow. Section 8 should be an ownership program. So people can buy the property, and after 10 or 15 years, they're off of Section 8. They own, and the world's a wonderful place. We've saved money. Senator Inouye heard the comment. He said, Peter, I love it. I want to go ahead and mention. I'm almost done. Give me a few minutes. Don't let them throw me out. The best part to come. So anyway, so Senator Inouye got it passed. Section 8 is an ownership program. Has been an ownership program since 1985. I don't think we've done a single Section 8 ownership in Hawaii. And I was told, Peter, we can't do it. If we help Section 8 buy, everyone else is going to complain because we can't help them. Again, they're looking at one wheel rather than solving all of the wheels and making the market work. Section 8 is the program to get these people in. Best part, federal money, not us. We don't have to pay for it. The federal government will through Section 8. Okay, we have to create incentives for developers to go into the affordable market. Our present developers will not want to do what I'm talking about. I've been an affordable housing developer for 40 years. Oh my God. More than 40 years. I am a cost plus developer. I make only 5%. They told me when I started, if it worked, I had 5 years before other people came into the market. To this day, there's not another developer doing what I do because I don't make that much money. But if we structure this program correctly, we will get hundreds of local developers, new developers to enter the market, because as part of them getting the favorable financing, they have to settle for a 5% profit. But they take no risk. The government will take the risk to get the affordable housing built. I can guarantee you every contractor, every architect, every engineer, every banker, every attorney will probably be in some hui building some building because they're able to use their legal fees, their architectural fees, their construction crews, and keep their guys busy, and they make a profit in addition to what they earn for whatever skill they're providing. What I'm describing is Hawaii in 1960. When you went to your dentist, you talked about real estate in the hui he was in. We had to see your doctor, you talked about real estate in the hui he was in. That's all people talked about because everyone was buying real estate. They're going to drag me up pretty soon. Okay, property tax reform I already mentioned. We need financing for buyers, 100% financing. The state of Hawaii, the city and county will guarantee it. They don't need money. They can hire an insurance company to guarantee it, and they just have to take the risk on the people who may default. I'm going to wait for questions and answers later. Thank you so much. That's the short version.